The question that we all ask ourselves oftentimes for the purposes of closure or whatever else you want to call it, the question oftentimes people will ask themselves is, how long is too long to want to stop, or how long is too long when it comes to stopping to wait for a reply? Like, how long do you have to wait for a reply? Yeah, when is it too long that you have now waited and the reply is just like, oh, ata wewe uko na jokes? I feel like that's the question we're asking ourselves. And as a formerly single woman, as a woman who was formerly single in her other life, I suppose this is one of those things that oftentimes you would really struggle with. And oftentimes you would struggle with it depending on the kind of relationship you're in, where in the relationship you're at, how long you've known the person that you're in this supposed, your panties are up in a bunch because of. These are all things that I would put into perspective. How long is too long? For instance, I just met you, I don't know you, we literally had our first date, and I sent you a text and I said, hey, what a wonderful date, I'm so glad we linked up, and you don't reply to that message even if it's 2 weeks later and you still haven't responded to that message, I am well within my rights to say that, hey, that wasn't an issue at all. However, we've gone on multiple dates, you've met my friends and family, and now I send you a text and I tell you, hey, really fun hanging out today, I can't wait for the next one, and you do not respond to that message, again, well within my rights to be mad. In fact, I am allowed to wait a little longer for this response simply because the nuance of how long I've known you, how long this relationship has been going on, is put in play, right? So all these are factors to consider. However, I'm curious as to how Turi you see it.
Honestly, I cringe at the number of times I waited patiently
Girl.
for someone to finally reply, and even went ahead and added another text under the one I have been not replied to, under the blue ticked one. It's a shame. It's cringe. You think about it later on and you're like, oh, I was so foolish. But here's the thing. Once you realize there's no effort and you're the only one putting in effort into said conversations, even phone calls, you're the only one initiating phone calls. If you don't call them, you're not going to talk. You know, if you're the one initiating text and they're going to give you like, hi, how are you? I'm good. What are you doing? I'm cooking. Yani, you know, those one-sided answers, you know, it's crazy. So as soon as you feel like you're giving too much than you're receiving, it's no longer, you know, a two-way thing. Just give up.
Yeah.
Let them be.
What about the invisibility factor? Because a lot of people feel invisible when they send a message to someone and you're like, oh, they didn't get a response. Or if you actually go back and all you see is just you, no reply from them. And you can tend to feel quite lonely because the more you text, the more they don't reply, the lonelier you feel. It's almost like a very direct correlation of how those things take place. So how do you deal with that? Like, how do you advise someone who's now feeling lonely because they sent the first message, not responded to, second message, not responded to? How do you just help them with like dealing with that loneliness that they start to feel?
I think first of all is recognizing that not everyone is glued to their phone. And if you find yourself, you're constantly glued to your phone, you need to start working on things. You're not busy enough. That's another thing. If you find yourself, or rather your mood and your happiness and how good you feel about yourself is dictated by how other people respond to you, you're not busy enough, especially in this economy. Like, there's so many things you could be doing. Have you cleaned your house? We say this a lot. Have you cleaned your house? Your walls, landlord alikupaintia white, but you have hand stains or whatever. You have cobwebs in your house. Have you taken time to even clean your surroundings before you sit by a phone and just wait for a reply? So if you find yourself, you're the one constantly waiting, you're the one constantly feeling sad that you're not getting the responses you need at the time you need, perhaps you're not busy, perhaps you're not working on yourself enough. So maybe prioritize your happiness being a you thing rather than another person thing.
I feel like another issue that people often come up with quite a bit is like, oh, maybe they were too busy to contact me. Maybe they just have a lot going on. And so we're going to set up a timer. Do we have a timer, Mr. Producer? Okay, I'm going to set a timer on my phone. It is currently at 00, right? I will set up a timer and send a message to someone, a voice note, ask Siri to type it for me, and we'll see how long it actually takes to tell someone, hey, I'm busy, I'll call you back, right? So we're starting the timer at 00 and we start now. Hey, I'm so sorry I haven't been able to respond to your message. I'm in the middle of something. I'll explain a little bit later. How about I call you in 2 hours or later on in the evening to clarify what is going on? Stop. That took, you want to guess how long that took? 12 seconds, 65 milliseconds. If it takes me 12 seconds to do that, are you really trying to tell me that people have no time to just send you a message and tell you, hey, I've given you all the information. Hi, I'm sorry I didn't respond to your message. I saw it. I didn't respond to your message. I have recognized a message did come through. A missed call did come through. However, I'm in a really tricky situation. I'm dealing with something, and you are understanding that, okay, fine, they could be dealing with something. Why not explain to me? And this person has told you, hey, look, the thing that I'm going through, I can't discuss now, but I will give you very clear information on what happened a little later on. And you've also finalized that message by saying, I will call you in 2 hours. I will call you in the evening for us to have this conversation, which then eases that person off of freaking out about like, oh, is it something that I need to discuss now? Can we talk now? When can we talk? When can we talk? That anxiety is completely gone away simply because you've given very clear instructions about what is going on, answered the question that this person aforementioned, among other things. And it only took you 12 seconds. So the lack of effort is definitely a thing to consider, because oftentimes people are like, oh no, maybe he's busy, maybe she's busy, maybe she's in the middle of something. It doesn't take that long to tell someone very clearly what's going on. And it doesn't take that long for that person to read that message and understand and give you the space that you need. So I think the lack of effort can be a big issue in these cases. So yeah, when there's no effort, just let it go.
But that's a very ideal situation. That's like utopia-like, situation of an expectation of somebody communicating that, hey, I'm not in the space to do this right now. Let's talk a bit later. Because even when I acknowledge I'm not in the space right now, 9 times out of 10, I'm not thinking about consoling you and your fears and whatever you may think or perceive about this. As in, this is not about you. This is about me. So it's more of just let people be, let them. If somebody is going to come back later on when they're in a good space and say, hey, this is what was happening, I'll be like, oh, cool. Yeah, I did notice. But it's okay. We've sorted that out. And also another thing is avoid jumping into conclusions and avoid making yourself the main character in everybody else's story. People have different priorities, different lives, different things that they're doing. So it's quite selfish for you to now pout and say, oh, I didn't get a response. Oh, they're so mean. Nah, they're doing stuff. And when they're ready, they'll come and tell you.
Yeah, there's also that other little thing that we call emotional maturity. Heck, maturity period. I think for a lot of people, it's usually a question of, are you mature enough to understand that people have lives? And this is very, very true, because if you consider the fact that you're just coming out of high school, you're just now stepping into university, and you're dating someone who's in a full-on 9-to-5, you often have communication issues. Why? You have all the time in the world, and they have a lot to do on their plate. So you will always find that there's a communication issue, because you're like, oh, they never make time for me. They never do this. They never do that. They never do the other. Simply because you guys are in such different places, and your maturity to understand hasn't and will not come until you yourself join a 9-to-5. And that's when you go like, oh man, okay, maybe I did overreact. Maybe they did have a lot going on during that time. I think with a lot of these levels of maturity, we have to also somewhat experience life in its fullness for you to understand where the other person is coming from, especially when you're dating a little older. So be mindful of such things, and be mindful of a pattern as well. If it just becomes a pattern of you've had a conversation, you've worked out a system, and this person is now like completely obliterating and going past you and going over your head, even when you've had very clear discussions about how to deal with such things, then these are other conversations to have. I think determine a pattern, determine a solution, and then hold each other accountable once you've gotten to the point of understanding where each other is coming from. But right, there's never, I don't think there's a timeline. I don't think there's a timeline for waiting for a message or a response, and I don't think there should be one to begin with. Generally, just go with the flow, see how it happens, deal with it as a per person situation, because it truly is a very individual relationship between you and the person that you're in that relationship with. What do you think?
Yeah, totally true. Just give people space.
Yup, and try and act a bit more maturely if you can. But hey, these are just our opinions. If you have another one, let us know. The number is always down here. And until tomorrow, same time, same place, my name is Silka Thomi Kathomi. See you then.
My name is Tori Faye.